Om Aganati Miranda Syanganangana Salakya Chaksurin Militam Yana Tajmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Swayam Rupa Karamayam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Suyata Parakamaram Sri Gurun Vaishnavams Cha Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shibhishakan Vitam Sjam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhikanta Namostute Jayatam Sarito Pango Ram Vindir Matirgati Matsavashiparam Boja Radha Ramada Namohanam Sriman Rasa Rasa Rambi Vamsi Vana Karsan Vena Shunokabita Gopinata Sri Asaram Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumada Srimad Radhakara Shima Shanashto Shri Sri Radha Shira Govinda Prestalabi Seva Manashmarami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Taya Chajigari Taya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Mangalang Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Gurudhaja Mangalam Bharani Kaksho Mangaraya Tanohiri Om Narayana Vidmahi Vasadevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodhyate Om Mahadevi Cha Vidmahi Vishnu Padniti Dhimahi Tano Lakshmi Prachodhyate Mahalakshmi Namastubhyam Saresari Hari Pre Namastubhyam Dhyadire Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanusute Devi Pranamani Hari Priye Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangang Langaya Yat Kripata Mahandene Sri Gurindirarinam Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhuttare Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Sarasati Devi Guru Anipachani Nirvishesa Sanyadi Praskita De Sadani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everybody to Transcendental Tuesday. We're revisiting. Whoops, I hear a bird trying to get down off his perch. Pretty soon he'll be scratching at the door here. It's the 23rd verse in the 7th chapter of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Good morning, Rob, who has to be quiet because he's got Kel with him. Kel's sleeping. Bye, Bobby. Good morning. Good morning, Brent Spencer. Again, 7th chapter, 1st canto of the Bhagavatam, 23rd verse, 2nd visitation. Tvam adya purusha shakshat ishvara prakriti para mayam vyudasha chiks chaktyam kevanam shtita atmani. You, Arjuna says to Krishna, are the original personality of Godhead who expands himself all over the creations and is transcendental to material energy. You have cast away the effects of the material energy by dint of your spiritual potency. You are always situated in eternal bliss and transcendental knowledge. Okay, we talked yesterday, Maya Tadamidam Saram Jagat Abhyakta Murtina. Krishna pervades and supports. He's ubiquitous. He's prevalent everywhere, in every nook and cranny of this material world. He pervades and supports it just like air pervades and supports the cloud. And yet in the same way that air is invisible, Krishna also is abhyakta murtina. He does all this invisible to our eyes in his abhyakti, his unmanifested form. Now the impersonalists, they concentrate on this unmanifested form. The universal form is another aspect, another face of the Lord, so far this material world is concerned. The Virat Rupa. The impersonalists concentrate on the energies and they ignore the energetic. It's as if you were to focus on the rays of the sun, you were to acknowledge the rays of the sun, you would become very expert, everything to do with the rays of the sun, the particles of sunshine, but you would deny that those particles of sunshine, those rays, have any source. You would wipe from your consciousness any possibility of an energetic source for that energy, that the energy just happened. See, concentrating on the sunshine and ignoring the sun globe from which the sunshine comes. So what happens when you focus on the oneness of the living being and God? God is spirit and we're also spirit. But there's a difference, and that difference opens a door for love and devotion, bhakti. It is a great disservice to oneself and to mankind by simply focusing, only acknowledging the energies of the Lord and denying the energetic source, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is described as revealing himself in three features. Vedanti tat bambidas tatvam yasgavyaram brahmiti paramatmiti bhagavaniti sabdyate. The absolute truth is known to the neophytes, those who are just beginning on their spiritual path. They're beginning to realize that there's a difference between themselves and the body. They're not this earth, they're not this fire, there's not this water, they're not this flesh, they're not this mind, they're not this false ego. They are Atma, they are spirit. They are a category different than this inferior temporal material energy. That's called Aham Brahmasmi. To identify yourself as Brahman is the first stage towards moving in the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But at that stage, you think of yourself as one with God. God is spirit, you are spirit, therefore I am God. It's like saying A is B, C is B, therefore A is C. Doesn't work that way, because there is a quantitative difference between you and God. If you acknowledge only the particle of sunshine, you're ignoring that huge orb hung up there in a corner of the universe, without which the universe would be null and void within a matter of seconds. There would be knowledge, there would be a bit of knowledge there, but there's so much that's ignored. There's so much that's denied that the results could not but be disastrous. So Krishna reveals himself to the neophytes as impersonal energy. Everybody knows that wherever there's energy, there's an energetic source. There's energy coming into the light bulb, but it just doesn't happen in and of itself. That energy is brought to the light bulb through power lines by a powerhouse, which is managed by a caretaker. The powerhouse, the whole system, the whole grid was designed and maintained by engineers. So wherever you find energy and you trace that energy back, the energy itself may be impersonal, but the source of the energy is always personal. And you wouldn't have the energy. We wouldn't have, in fact, we didn't before Edison, we didn't have electricity until such time as people figured out its existence and figured out how to harness it and utilize it. That's the preliminary stage. God is energy. But the next stage leads to understanding that God is himself a person from whom energy comes. He is effulgent like the sun. And the yogis realize that aspect of God who has expanded himself into the hearts of the living beings. God has expanded himself in terms of energy, which seems impersonal. He's also expanded himself to accompany each and every soul, each and every one of us in our journey in this material world, in the hopes that eventually we'll get it right, make a U-turn and go back to home, back to Godhead. So because he cares for us, he accompanies us in the region of the heart as a witness, overseer, proprietor, and permitter, just waiting, poised until such time as we get fed up with the material pursuits and seek his guidance and direction. Upadrash anamartacha bharta bhokta mahesha paramatmita dehishmin parusham. Now, why would the Lord, who is everywhere present through the diffusion of his energies, who is within the hearts of the yogis, why would he go to all this trouble for what we described yesterday as castaway energy? The example we gave was the fire. Yatomagad vishvugana dabibad apiatma yatagnir prigadomira. The fire has three features. It's flames, sparks, and smoke. And of all these three, the least desired is the smoke. The sparks are good. If the sparks remain within the fire, the sparks have value. They can act like fire. The flame certainly has value. But the smoke, it's hard to know what the value of the smoke is. The smoke
is a byproduct. It's an unwanted byproduct. It's like the refuse of the fire. And you can't really use it to any good purpose. So similarly, this whole material world compared to the flame of the spiritual world is like smoke. And we're like the sparks who have gone with the smoke rather than to stay with the flame. And we've lost by our remoteness, by our distance from our source. You can hardly detect that we are eternal spirit souls, part and parcel of God. We're morose, we're depressed, we're lost, we're confused, we're distracted by all our little tiny mouse-like plans for satisfaction in this material world. You could hardly recognize in the conditioned souls in the material world the divinity, but it is there nevertheless. Now this smoke is comparable to this material world. Now why does the Lord even bother about it? He comes in impersonally, pervades and supports it. He personally comes within the heart of each and every living being, and he can be realized by those who exercise the discipline of yoga. And the answer points us to that third aspect of the Lord. Vedanti tat tatvam vish tatvam yasgan brahmiti paramatmiti bhagavan iti sabdyate. The Lord is realized by the neophyte as impersonal energy. Is realized on the next level of advancement as living in the hearts of the yogi. And then finally one comes through devotion and not through yoga, not through mental speculation, not through charity, not through austerity. Oh, bhaktya mam ananyaya sakya aham eva. Krishna declares categorically to Arjuna that only through undivided devotional service can I be known in my personal Bhagavan highest feature face to face standing before you, only through devotion. Now why does the Lord, who exists in his own spiritual planet called Goloka Vrindavan, countless light years away from this material world, why does he take such trouble to be an integral part of this material world? First of all, why does he support living beings who don't care for him, who have turned their backs on him? Why does he accompany them as the super soul for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and who knows what abominable species of life, being faithful, being true to them, even though they don't hardly care for him? Why is all that true? Why would God bother with us? After all, we don't give anything to him. So why does he continue to give us everything and to promise so much more? And the answer is that he loves us. He loves us. That Bhagavan, that personal feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he himself has three features. There are three things that we should know about the personal feature of the Lord. One is that he's in control. Nothing happens without his sanction. Not a blade of grass moves, not a sparrow falls to the ground. He knows how many hairs we have on our head. He knows what we're thinking before we're thinking it. He knows what our enemies are thinking before they're thinking it. He's in complete control. Do not think that anything happens outside of the sanction of God. He may not have planned everything that happens, but he knows how to use everything that happens to educate us, to make us and mold us, to take what was meant for our harm and use it for our good. He is the controller. That is the first thing to realize about him. The second thing to realize about him is that he never makes mistakes. God does not make mistakes. God never says, oh, I didn't see that coming, or oh, that's a surprise. The Lord, the poet William Cowper said, moves in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. He plants his footstep on the sea and rides upon the storm. Deep in unfathomable minds of never-failing skill, he treasures up his bright designs and works his never-failing will. Judge not the Lord by feeble sense, but trust him for his grace. Behind a frowning providence, he hides a smiling face. His purposes will ripen fast, unfolding every hour. The bud may have a bitter taste, but sweet will be the flower. Blind unbelief is sure to err and scan his work in vain. God is his own interpreter, and he will make it plain. Krishna's ways may twist and turn, my heart may throb and ache, but my soul is no concern, because he makes no mistake. My sacred plans may go astray, my hopes may fade away, but I'll still trust in God to lead, because he knows the way. There's so much I cannot see, my eyesight far too dim. Who am I to disagree? I'm just going to go along with him. Though the night be dark and the light take forever to break, I'm going to follow him, because he makes no mistake. God is in complete control. There is no part of his creation in which he has not inserted himself, even the atom, even our own hearts. There's nothing outside of him. Secondly, he makes no mistakes. There's no factor of which he is unaware, and he himself is the supreme factor that whatever he wills is established as an automatic fact. We conceive of a certain goal, a certain achievement, a certain destination, and yet there's so much between the cup and the lip, you might say. There's the planning, there's the marshaling of resources, there is the workings of fate, whether things fall into place or whether they refuse to do so. There is opposition, there is the time lapse. Sometimes it's decades between the time we get the dream and we're able to fulfill it. And sometimes the dream is not even meant to be fulfilled in our generation. It's meant to be fulfilled in the next generation, and we don't live to see the full fruition of it. So there's so much between what we conceive of, aspire for, and dream of, and the accomplishment of that. But God's will is a fact. All God, the supreme controller, the infallible Lord, has to do to bring, in fact, millions of universes into being, each one of which fully and perfectly equipped to maintain the innumerable living beings on those planets. All he has to do is will it, and it becomes a fact. His will is a fact. Natasya karanam chabidyatena tat samaschabrad parasya shaktir vivid shobhavaka balagarana. Because he is, in fact, within each and every atom and in the hearts of living beings. His energies have a direction, they have purpose, they have infallibility in and of themselves. Because they are coming from the perfect, full, supreme Lord, his energies diffuse themselves in such a way as to create a perfectly engineered, interlocking, interacting material and spiritual creation without his personal supervision, without his personal attendance. God is in full control, and he never makes a mistake. Nothing is ever lacking. And the third thing to realize about that personal Lord, Bhagavan, is that he loves us. He created every one of us unique. He didn't do carbon copies. We're not produced off of an assembly line. We are from his very essence. Inasmuch as he is independent, we also have our free agency. We are created from the very beginning, from the get-go, with free will. And we have, as such, the ability to use it in order to make our life successful and wend our way back home, back to Godhead, or we can continue to abuse it and misuse it. But as far as Krishna is concerned, he's going to move literally heaven and earth in order to try to persuade us to come back to home, back to Godhead. Now, that about face on our part has to come voluntarily. It has to come willingly. The Lord created us above and beyond every other purpose to love us and to be loved by us. 3/4, as we mentioned, padatreos behishashana pragima antirta lokasura griya mera vyabharaha. 3/4 of the creation of the Lord consists of living beings who never deviated from that purpose, from the beginning, from the time their eyes opened, from the time they awoke from their yoga nidra slumber. They immediately hastened to engage in the service of the Lord. And in doing so, their spiritual bodies blossomed, their spiritual senses unfolded. But in this material world, the 1/4 creation of the Lord, the living beings decided, instead of serving the Lord and developing blissful, ecstatic spiritual senses. The spiritual senses differ from material senses in that they don't need external stimulation. The spiritual senses themselves, by nature, are full of ecstasy. So you don't need a set of circumstances. You don't need one thing and another thing juxtaposing and aligning together in order to get a flickering moment of happiness. The senses themselves are constituted in such a way that you're feeling from every pore of your spiritual body unlimited, ever-increasing transcendental happiness. It's far different than the so-called happiness of this material world, which you have to plan for, you have to manipulate, you have to arrange, you have to make all these elaborate arrangements, and then maybe you'll get lucky for a second or so, and then you'll be left hankering for that experience again and having to go through the whole thing over and over and over again. And the more you do it, the less satisfied you become. Someone said the greatest heroin high is the first one. Every other heroin high is nothing other than the effort to experience it like you experienced it the first time. Now, that has to be a sad fact, an ineffably sad fact. Your best experience was the first experience, and every other experience, you lose your job, you lose your wife, you lose your family, you lose your health, you lose any meaning, all in order to get back that first experience, which you didn't even see coming in the first place. You had no idea what was in store for you. Spiritual pleasure is totally different. Even the pleasure of the impersonalist. The impersonalist realizes that I'm not this body, and to his credit, he stops indulging in the interaction of the bodily senses and the external circumstances. The benefit, the virtue of realizing that your spirit is that you stop all this busybody stuff. You stop all the manipulation to try to bring about an ideal set of circumstances to get a momentary spurt of pleasure. You realize that pleasure is not found in this body. No more than water is found in the desert. The impersonalist, the neophyte in spiritual life, ceases to seek out pleasure in the interaction of the material elements. He knows that pleasure comes from his own spiritual self. The only problem is that failing to recognize the energetic source, the personality of Godhead behind the energies, failing to recognize, so to speak, the sun globe behind the sunshine, he never engages his senses in the service of the Lord. So although he knows he's eternal and he gets relief from the rat race, he doesn't find the spiritual solid ground with which to make further progress. His senses remain stunted in that purgatory twilight state. Okay. Now, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, who exists within and throughout the creation, and also, and this is key, apart from the creation, he created us to love us. Each and every one of us is created unique. There is not two of a kind. That means that although there are countless living beings, and true to say, 3/4 of them are engaged with the Lord. They never left the Lord. They were engaged since time immemorial. They're maturing, they're growing, their bliss has been expanding. They never dropped a beat. They never missed a step. On the other hand, we have been out of it for a long, long time. So why wouldn't the Lord just keep going with those who are true, with those who stuck to him, and not worry about those who exiled themselves from the spiritual world? And the answer is, we have the story in the Bible of the prodigal son. The elder son worked very conscientiously. He did everything the father wanted him to do, but the younger son wanted to cash out. He asked his father to give him what was his inheritance. He took it, he spent it in wine, women, and debauchery, finally exhausted all of his inheritance and could only find work in the pigsty. He was hungry and he had to eat the same food side by side with the pigs. Finally, he thought, maybe my father will accept me back. And he said, nothing could be worse than this. When he returned and came within sight of the father, not only did the father accept him back, but the father celebrated. To the bewilderment of the elder son, the father celebrated the return of that prodigal son. So how Krishna will celebrate our return back to home, back to Godhead, and why he will celebrate it. You'd think there'd be some punishment. You'd think there'd be some probationary period. You wouldn't expect a huge celebration when the black sheep comes home. But the reason is that Krishna has missed us in a very tangible way. He created us unique. We can love him in our own unique way. We can love Krishna in a way that no one else can love him. And Krishna made us for that. So, despite the fact that there are millions and millions of other living beings plugged in to Krishna in love and devotion, there are some empty sockets there. There are higher levels. There are additional levels, flavors of love, which are absent in Krishna's circle. Krishna misses us by omission. Heard a story one time of a father. He had 5 sons. And, on Saturday morning, his habit was to get up early. Saturday morning is the day he didn't have to go to work. And 3 of his sons would get up with him, the crack of dawn. They would go out, throw the baseball around, toss the football. They would wrestle, have just a great time. The father's wrestling and enjoying the weekend with his 3 sons, but 2 of his sons are sleepyheads. They're still upstairs in bed. So as much as the father is enjoying pastimes with his 3 sons, there's a part of him which is missing the 2 sons, wishing they would get themselves out of bed and get down there and have fun with everybody else. Although Krishna is fully engaged with all the liberated souls in the spiritual world, our seeing is not happening with him because we haven't got it yet. We haven't got with the program. So there's a hole. Krishna experiences intimate, eternal, relishable, pleasurable, ever-increasing intimacy with countless devotees. And of course, at this point, we have to hasten to mention Krishna's one, but he's also many, being full and unlimitedly potent. He can expand himself in such a way that he can be with each and every devotee or each and every group of devotees and be fully engaged with them. Those devotees with whom Krishna in one of his innumerable expansions is engaging, they're not aware that Krishna is simultaneously engaging in millions and millions of other places with millions and millions. They think that Krishna is right with me. Prabhupada uses the term, it's kind of a funny term. He says, each one of Krishna's wives in Dwarka thinks that he is her hand-pecked husband and her husband only. Little did they know or realize that Krishna is with all of his other devotees simultaneously, fully satisfying them. Okay. Having said that, there's still a hole in Krishna's experience. Krishna is relentless in his pursuit of love. He wants to taste everything there is to taste. He wants to relish everything there is to relish. He doesn't want to miss out on anything. And if it was up to Krishna, he wouldn't miss out on anything. But he made us in his own image. He made us eternal because he loves us. He gave us free will. Free will is the greatest gift that anyone could give us, because with that free will, we can voluntarily step forward and ask to be engaged in his service. And the double-edged sword of that free will is that some souls will neglect to do so, will neglect to use it properly. They'll misuse it. And so it's not Krishna's fault that we have veered, that we have gone a different direction. We've gone to this smoke-like, useless for all practical purposes. This, in terms of the purpose for which everything is created, which is to love God and be loved by God, this material energy and what's going on in this material world and the inhabitants and residents of this material world with their priorities and their appetites and their ambitions is totally useless. It's totally useless. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati went so far as to say that this material world is like a latrine. It's smoke is the refuse. It's the garbage of fire. So this material world is the refuse. We're thrown up on the garbage heap. Krishna didn't reject us. Krishna wants us like anything to come back. He even accompanied us to the latrine. He accompanied us to the garbage pit. Brahmanda bromite kono bhagavana jiva guru Krishna prashadi pai bhakti lota beach. Through millions and millions of previous incarnations, through millions of species. Sometimes we were demigods, sometimes we were human, sometimes we were a llama, sometimes we were a peacock, sometimes we were a worm in stool. Krishna never abandoned us. He always faithfully stuck with us through thick and thin, all in the hopes that he can some or other be instrumental in bringing us back to home, back to Godhead. But otherwise, why would God come to this material world? The things that God is interested in, love, are absent in this material. In this material world, we say we love our wife, we love our wealth, we love our trucks, we love our guns, we love our country. It's not love, it's self-interest. Self-interested so-called love is lust. And so what Krishna enjoys, what Krishna looks for, is not to be found hardly at all in this material world, save and except those rare souls who are his devotees. For the sake of one devotee, Krishna will redeem. Krishna will give a break to an entire country, an entire society. It says, Vyaktam atmat maramaram, Bhagavan atma bhavanam, Shvano niriham sirim rupa charatyam. Krishna says that wherever there are devotees moving among society, trying to teach and spread the gospel of Krishna consciousness, being examples themselves of selfless love and devotion to the Supreme, it should be understood that that devotee is Krishna himself. That devotee is Krishna's mercy personified. That wherever we see devotees, we are meant to see that devotee as the mercy energy of Krishna. And for the sake of devotees, although there's so much hate and so much conflict and so much viciousness in this material world, for the sake of the few devotees that take up the work as instruments of the Lord, this material world continues to go on. A misguided course, a wrong course, a vicious course, a course of darkness, a course of ignorance. And it's nothing that the materialists or the politicians or the economists or the stockbrokers or the CEOs are doing. And they're not our provider. They're not maintaining the world. They're not assuring the continuation of this material world. Everything is ongoing because of the devotees. And the Lord doesn't wind up everything in this material world, though he could very easily, because he still wants to give the devotees a chance to do their magic. He still wants to give people the opportunity to voluntarily accept the process of devotional service and go back home, back to God. Remember that Lord Nrsingadev was so upset at the ongoing harassment by Hiranyakashipu of his son, that when Nrsingadev finally came himself to right the wrongs, to bifurcate Hiranyakashipu, he was so angry. He thought this world is useless. Everything is useless. Brahma is useless. Shiva is useless. Lakshmi, Varuna, Chandra, all the devil, everybody's useless because they stood by, incapable of protecting my devotee, Prahlad Maharaj. Nirbharya prashantya shashita pradadari dinishe pivara. Prahlad was peaceful. He was humble. He was absolutely devoted to the Supreme Lord. And in spite of that, a period of time went by where his father tried to kill him in a dozen different ways. And because nobody was capable of standing up to Hiranyakashipu on behalf of Prahlad, the mood of Nrsingadev was that I am going to destroy the entire three worlds. And the only reason he didn't was because Prahlad walked up to him. Everybody else was cowering in fear. His effulgence, his anger, his ferocity, his roars were so loud that nobody could get within 10 miles of him. So everybody, Indra said, Varuna said, Prahlad, you go, you go, you go, you go. So without any fear, without being intimidated in the least, it says that in the mouth of the cat, the kitten feels love. In the mouth of the cat, the rat feels death. So Prahlad had nothing to fear from the mouth of Lord Nrsimhadev, and he just walked up and he got on his lap. As soon as his devotee, staunch, faithful devotee, got on the lap of Lord Nrsimhadev, that and only that was able to allay his anger. Only because in that material world there was one light, one moon-like devotee. Nrsimhadev put aside his anger and changed his mind about destroying the entire cosmic creation. Why the Lord has such affection. The Lord, you might say, is obsessed with his devotees. Not so much the yogis, certainly not the mental speculations, the ascetics, those who give in charity, the religionists. He doesn't think about them night and day. He doesn't worry about their well-being. Those who think of the Lord night and day, those who would give up their family, their wealth, their possessions, their prestige, who would give up, like Lord Jesus Christ, even their lives on behalf of the Lord. The Lord himself says, how can I not? They're thinking of me day and night, how to honor me and to bring fallen souls back to me. So how can I do less? How can I do less? I am their Lord. I am their protector. How can they're thinking of me day and night? So I am thinking of them day and night. And then what happens when souls who have been apart from the Lord for lifetimes after lifetime return? The Lord considers that he becomes more. He becomes complemented. Om Purnamada Purnaminam. He's full, he's complete, everything that comes from him is full and complete, and yet because of our misuse of the gift of free will, he's not complete. He is complete, everything that comes from him is complete as far as shelter and food and all that we need for existence, but Krishna will never be complete by his very nature. He's a love addict. He'll never have enough love. He'll never finish up seeking after expanding, loving relationships. And so therefore Krishna makes this statement in the 9th canto of the Srimad, Naham Atmanam Ashashe Mad Bhaktir Sadaba Vina. He says, I can't live without my devotees. And he's not just saying, I can't live without those devotees who are with me. He's not just saying, I can't live without those devotees who are by my side. He's not just saying, I can't live without those devotees who have always been faithful to me. Those that have left and gone into the material world, meh. He's not saying that. Not at all. He's saying, I can't live without each and every one of my parts and parcels being engaged with me in reciprocal, intimate, eternal, ecstatic, loving pastimes. He says, Vina. Vina means without. Naham Atman. Krishna says, I cannot be who I am. I cannot be as wise. I cannot be as powerful. I cannot be as wealthy. I cannot be as renounced. I cannot be as beautiful. In other words, I cannot be my full self, Mad Bhaktir Sadabhavana, absent even one devotee. Even when there's even one inhabitant in the material world, then I am not fully me. Why? Sriyatam Chachantikam Brahma Yesham Gatir Aham Pratam. In the absence of my devotees, I do not even desire to enjoy my own supreme bliss and my own supreme opulences. So the Lord, through love, needs the devotees in order to be Sad Aishwarya, to be full in 6 opulences, to be as beautiful, as wealthy, as knowledgeable, and strength, to be fully complete. The Lord needs the devotees, but he cannot. He doesn't have the power to change our minds. he gave that away. Just consider the high-mindedness, the generosity. Krishna created us. And when the question came up, should I make them subservient? Should I wire them to be subservient to my will? Or should I give them free will? If I give them free will, they can go off and get themselves into a whole lot of trouble. And I will have to suffer their absence. There will be a hole in the circle of my loving acquaintances. So if Krishna were thinking selfishly, he would have programmed them to be conformists. If he were thinking selfishly, he wouldn't have given them free will. He wouldn't have given them the ability to get themselves into trouble. He would have wired them in such a way that whatever the Lord wanted, they would do. But the Lord didn't think selfishly. He thought, what is the best thing? How can my parts and parcels experience the highest level of pleasure? And he realized that without free will, without voluntarily entering into loving relationships with him, they would never become all that they could have possibly been. They would never experience the level of unlimited pleasure that they could experience. So he gave them that free will, knowing that they would go away from him, knowing that he would suffer from their absence, knowing that he would suffer from their being omitted from his loving pastimes. But he accepted that on himself in the interest of making his parts and parcels capable of the highest level of love. So Krishna says that I would not be all that I am. I would not enjoy my own spiritual kingdom, my own supreme opulences without my devotees. And what about the devotees? What about those over whom the Lord fawns? What are the characteristics of those whom the Lord thinks of night and day? In the next verse, Mai nirbharyam hridya sadhava samadarshana. Those devotees who don't see in terms of friends, enemies, neutral parties, they've given up the lusty acquisitiveness of this material world, and they've seen all living beings as potentially lovers of God, members of the same spiritual family. So, Vase Karanti Mam Bhaktya, devotees give up all of the many branchedness, all of the fragmental aspirations and pursuits of the material world. They bring it all, they integrate all their powers, all their energies, all their senses towards focusing on the lotus feet of the Lord, reconstituting themselves as an atom at the lotus feet of the Lord. They do this just like a chaste wife who never thinks of any other man. She only thinks of her husband. That's all. 24 hours a day. That chaste wife brings the whole family, brings her husband, brings her children under her control by service, by love. And similarly, the devotees of the Lord who are equal to everyone and completely attached to the Lord in the core of their hearts, just as a chaste wife brings the whole family under control, those devotees bring the Supreme Personality of Godhead under their control. So that Lord, he generates the material manifestations. He impregnates the material energy with the perverse and rebellious living beings. Then he expands himself into that material creation and assumes the Vishwarupa, the universal form, as it was shown to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But that form of the Lord, that creation of the Lord, is not of particular interest to those who have awakened eternal devotional service to the Lord. They are rather interested in the Lord as he reveals himself in the spiritual world. Purushottama, the highest of human beings, the perfect emblem of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. And devotees seek to be, if the Lord is the gem, if the Lord is the topmost, most valuable, beautiful gem, the Lord seeks, and the devotees complementary seek to be settings in that gem. They seek to surround the Lord. One time, Prabhupada, in order to make this point, he said, Krishna is not particularly beautiful, but surrounded by his devotees, he is the defeater of the beauty of millions and millions and millions of cupids. So why we speak constantly against impersonalism is that impersonalism only takes into consideration the rays of the Lord, the energies of the Lord, and gives no information of the tangible, transcendental, eternal form of the Lord known as Krishna. From an impersonal point of view, you fail to realize the three most important things about God in his personal form. He is in control. He never makes mistakes, and he loves us like anything. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And we have a lot of good points and a lot of great stories. I barely touched the different points that I had in mind, but we've run out of time on this Transcendental Tuesday morning. So come back to us tomorrow for some great stories and some great examples. So let's see what we've got in the comment section. Govinda Dev says, the idea of God making a mistake is interesting to think about. Who would tell him? It's an impossible thought to even entertain. Funny, actually. Not much to say about that. All right, so this is Anjali. 3 things to know about Krishna. He knows everything. He's in complete control. He never makes mistakes. And he loves us. Koda Nitai, Das, Dandavats, Jay, checking in. Anjali, making multiple comments, which is one of the many reasons we love her. We're having a relevance committee meeting tomorrow night. Let me know if you'd like to join. I think you could be a big contributor. I'll give you the username and password if you're interested, Anjali. Okay, that's it. Rob's keeping quiet because Kel's asleep, so I won't ask him to give one of his classic summations today. We'll see you again 23 hours from now for Wisdom Wednesday. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.